What's up, everyone? Are you guys doing for today? This is JC, and I'm your host for the Wealth Engineering Podcast. So, I created this podcast because I wanted to help people to motivate and also motivate them to increase their net worth, retire early, and also build that generational wealth that we can pass down to our generation. So, if this is something that you like, I definitely recommend you to hit the like button. Our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, so we're almost there, and we're one subscribers away from reaching 800. So thank you for your support, everyone. Shout out to all my new subscribers. So let's see, we have some people early here. Aaron, how are you doing, Aaron? Very early on. Thank you for your support. You ready? J Bones, thank you, J Bones. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, guys. All right. So I have an interesting topic for you guys. I was very excited to talk about it today, and I was even so excited that I even had a new setup for you guys. So I have a new camera. I have some lights here, and yes, I told you I was gonna take YouTube seriously today and this year, and let's go and we're here for that. So you've seen the title and you've seen the topic. So we're going to talk about net worth, assets, and liabilities. Now, I call these the building blocks of building wealth. All right. And I'm also going to invite someone to help you explain this concept to you guys because it's a very important concept, and it's something. It's the fundamentals of things you have to understand if you are serious about building wealth, and go from there. So first thing I wanted to mention is let's think of it as a builder, right? If we, let's say you have a building here, and then the entire building would be your empire, so your wealth empire. And every builders, there is two things they really have to consider. First thing they have to keep in mind, I'm sure you might say builders have many things to keep in mind, but first thing a builder has to think about it is what are they need to understand the materials that they have to work with. So they need to understand how to maneuver, sculpture, how to design whatever they want to design to get the desired result, right? So we're talking about the bricks, the blocks, and if we're looking at that building, right? We have the floors, we have a room. If you have a net worth of $100 positive, that's good. But if it's $100, then maybe you have a room on this first floor. And then if you have a network of $1,000, maybe you have an entire floor. And if you have a network above that, then maybe you have more and more floors in this building. But if you're in a negative, and maybe you have a basement somewhere, maybe you're deep down in a basement. And we're going to talk about network in general. But what I wanted to show you, and the reason why I'm pointing this out, is before you even think about that building that we consider our wealth, we need to think about the bricks, right? The bricks, the blocks, the cement, the foundation, and this is what creates that building. So if you're serious about building wealth, that's definitely the one thing that you need to consider. Then and the other thing a builder need to think about is to have the tools they need to understand the tools they have to work with. So first the materials, and second is the tools. So the today's podcast will be centered about the building blocks, basically the materials we have to work with. So those bricks to build our empire. And again, let me remind you the name of the channel, Wealth Engineering. I used to be an engineer. So as an engineer, I think like someone who designs, build, and create anything. And if we're talking about building wealth, then we got to talk about uh, um, exactly the desired results, which is wealth. So all that to say that um, we're going to talk about assets, liability, and combined that creates the network. I'm going to invite someone that's going to help me explain this, and is actually it's a very great concept that I'm going to explain. Is going to explain to you guys. So if you ever wanted to speak with a millionaire, well, today is your chance. I want to hear some comments in the chat. I want to hear some questions in the chat. You're going to learn from, I'm going to invite someone in the panel. Like I said, he's a millionaire, and then he's going to introduce himself. But before I bring him there, I really wanted to explain that concepts to you, and we're going to go from there. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today, the upcoming YouTuber, and he goes by the Intentional Millionaire. So, how are you doing, the Intentional Millionaire? I think I'll call you Tim for short. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing pretty good. How's it going, Wealth Engineering?
Very good, very good. I want to say thank you for joining the panel and wanting to discuss about this important topic with us today. And if you guys remember, this is your chance to speak with a millionaire. So if you have any questions, if there is anything you want to know, make sure you type them on the comments, and then I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll go from there. So and teams, couple questions we're gonna go for today. But first, I was wondering if you wanted to introduce yourself to the panel, a little bit about what you do, and go from there.
Okay, hey everyone. My name is the Intentional Millionaire, and I have $1 million portfolio. And pretty much what I do is, I'm just a little bit about my background. I'm 42. I'm a GPS engineer, but I also have assets in real estate and also in investments. And I'm also working on a couple collectibles as well. But with that being said, background about me, I'm the youngest of five. I was the first one out of five to go to actually college. Um, and I accidentally got into engineering because I after high school I worked for 2 years and decided I needed a career. So I went to the local community college and told the guidance counselor to sign me up for a career that's tough, math based, and a lot of people don't finish. And she told me I got the perfect one for you, and she put me in engineering, and the rest was history. Uh, I've been doing engineering now for over 10 plus years. But in the process of doing engineering, the first day that I went into a actual full time job, I realized that I needed to do something outside of work because that was the only way I knew I would get some level of wealth. So I decided to do some stuff in the financial area, and I understand just basic financial products. But in the process, I stopped watching TV and I did a lot of reading because I knew that a lot of answers was in books. And from that, I learned about just the basic concepts of investing, and I really learned about the Roth IRA. And the Roth IRA was the thing that kind of changed things for me. Um, but yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my background, and I can go a lot more in detail. But yeah, I'm the youngest of five, first one of to graduate college. My parents don't have a college background. Matter of fact, my mom has a GD high school level, and my dad, he did 1 year in the Air Force, and he worked at the shipyard. So, and I grew up in would you like to say the ghetto or the hood? But I made it out of the hood because I didn't want to become a product of my environment. So I just kind of really focused on what did I actually want out of my life.
Mm, powerful, very good. I like what I hear. And you said that you studied engineer. Do you mind me asking,
Hmm.
which branch of engineering did you study?
Electrical engineering.
Just like me. Small world, eh? Uh, So that's great. That's great.
Differential
I'm happy to.
equations.
Yes, I'm happy to hear that. Just in case you didn't know, I study electrical engineer, and I actually work in the industry for 5 years.
Hmm.
But I noticed that my salary was going up, but my wealth, basically, my purchase of power, I didn't know it was wealth back then, but I noticed that my purchase of power was going down. And how I was basing that was I had a poor spending habit back then. I was evaluating it on how much car I can buy. So I was
Hmm.
noticing that, hey, my salary is going up, but I can't really increase the monthly payment on my cars. So I'm like, what's going on here? So and then I decided to look into it. I started my financial journey that way, and that led me into this podcast today with you today. So I'm very happy to hear that you have an engineering background as well, and you probably approach finance in a similar way, if I don't mistake.
That's correct. Paying attention to the numbers.
Exactly, exactly. So, one question I had for you. So let's go. Let's take it back a little bit. So I understand you, and you alluded to that already. You mentioned about how you grew up, but I wanted to know more about, like, let's say in your teenage years. What were you doing around that time, and also how are you thinking about money back then? So you mentioned that you were already looking for a job, but in general, like, what is that the only option you had? You were thinking about only one job, and it was all engineering back then, or is there any other option you were thinking about?
Well, I would say this. So before getting into college, I would say that one of the things I always had some level of, entrepreneur spirit because I used to sell candy. Um, in the lunchroom. I would go to the local store, buy candy, and sell the candy at a 5 cent profit. And people was willing to pay. So I always tell people, well, if the market would have pay for it, then that means you got a great product.
Exactly.
So with that being said, though, I did that. But when I decided, in middle school, I really didn't have no real outlook on money
Mm,
because I just knew that money I heard in, growing up, I always had. However, I did hear a lot of conversations about money, and I just thought that money was for everybody else and not for me and my family.
mm,
But with that being said, I really didn't think about money because during the time, all I done was I went to school. Most of the time, I always made honor roll, but I didn't ever take no books home. Um, And I just after I got home, I just pretty much played Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, and Sega Genesis, and then did it all over again. And then, my journey but what really woke me up was, when I decided to go to college, I went to the community college only because I was paying out of pocket, and that's when I really realized you need money.
mm. Well, that's
So,
good. A couple shout
when
out, couple shout out. I see very quickly. I see Aaron B. is saying, hey, he's also youngest of five. So I guess there is. I said, hey, we have a compliment here. So, says great polo, great t-shirt right here. Yeah, that's the real deal, not the fake ones. And then also, I think Aaron has a question for you. He was saying that, hey, where are you from, ethnicity wise?
I'm from, the States, I'm from Virginia.
Perfect, perfect. All right.
Mhm.
So I understand that, and now can you let talk a bit about more like your financial life now? I understand you said that you have a $1 million portfolio, but is there anything else you're doing to generate income or to pass your time? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about that part?
Okay, so fast forward to now. I just throw this caveat to how did I get to now. So one of the things was back in 2006, yeah, about 2005, 2006, I was negative $21,000 in debt. And I told myself that I wasn't going to ever be in debt again. And that included a car payment, a furniture bill with me and my mom, and a credit card.
Mm,
And after I got out of debt, I started my first Roth IRA. And basically, how did I get out of debt? I continued to work the full time job while I was doing additional part time stuff. I was doing computer work. I was just doing anything that can generate money that was legal and legit. Because I knew if I got locked up or went into jail, I won't be able to make no money. So everything that was legal, as far as I did computer work, I did a little bit of detailing cars. I did some of those things because I wanted to totally get out of debt.
mm,
And that took me 2.5 years to do that. And once I got out of debt, I started a Roth IRA, because I was told that the Roth IRA was something that everybody that made working income should get one. So I got a Roth IRA, and then I was continued to do side work, but I also got into the financial area where I got financial licenses. I kind of that helped me kind of understand the financial area a little bit. Um, where I would say I was more on the average level. But from that, I was able to make some additional part-time income doing that.
That's-
Um, and I totally stayed out of debt throughout the entire time. But one of the key things that I was able to do was once I paid off the car, I never took the payment and upgraded anything. I continued to pay myself like I still had the car payment. And I would say that was the game changer because when I realized how the money was growing, I then started when I did my taxes, if I got any type of tax return or I did anything extra, I would just throw it all in there in the pile. And then eventually, like I stated, I got into the Roth IRA, and then I was told that I can purchase a property, which was my first home with the Roth IRA, and it was no penalty. So I done that, but when I purchased that property, I purchased it automatic with the mindset that I was going to rent it out. So I spent a lot of time reading books on real estate, and then I had a chance to reread Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read The Millionaire Next Door. And the thing that I can gravitate to throughout the books was that these seem like just pretty regular average Joe people, but they just did something different. And what that all allowed me to do is be disciplined.
I
And then
agree.
from there, so fast forward to now, I own a total of 4 rental properties, and I have investments, and I do half and half, and that equates to my $1 million portfolio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was going to be one of the question I had for you too, the breakdown of your portfolio. So it was most of that, if not all of it, would you say most of that is basically in portfolio in real estate? A lot of it is
No, it's about 50-50.
50-50. Okay, okay,
Mhm.
that's good.
And the reason why it was designed that way is because if the market ever went shifted, I knew that I can go back and do some restructuring and pay most of the properties off, and then my net worth would actually jump even more.
Mm. That's good. That's getting games. I didn't think of it that way. Me for now, I'm kind of like 100% in crypto. It's definitely not the recommended strategy, but I believe in it and it works working great for me. And I'm more in a wealth, kind of like increasing my wealth aggressively with staying focused and then slowly diversify. Actually, I
Mhm,
started diversifying. I would say maybe now I'm 98% crypto and I'm started diversifying in emerging markets. And
mhm,
then to be honest with you, the U.S. market, I got out of it. I wanted to get out of it since last year, but I noticed the trend was going up again, so I stayed. But after beginning, I would say early this year, decided to pull out. It scares me. It scares me. It's only going up. It's only going up, and whenever it goes up, it has to go down at some point. And talking about inflation numbers are coming high, so me personally, I'm more like on the conservative side, and when it comes to stock market, but crypto markets for now, that's the booming part. So I kind of when the when the when the cryptos are going up, I go there just before it happens, and then vice versa. But I'm waiting for something to go either real estate or stocks, and then restart it all over again. But
mhm.
that's in a nutshell. That's what I'm doing right now. But great, that's great insights on what you're doing right now, how you break your portfolio, and yes, and thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing this because um, we're learning different ways of doing it. So throughout your experience so far, we heard how you started, we heard how you got there. What would you say would be the biggest lesson you've learned when it comes to wealth?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned is have a solid foundation.
Mm,
Because when I first started out, the things that I did wrong was trying to be in all these different little pots and in a lot of different type of investments. And I realized that do not work because you never become master at one or two things where you can get a solid foundation.
mm,
So for me, my foundation initially was just really understanding the stock market, the investment market, equities. And then from there, I built off of that. But one of the key things I would say that most people need to do, in my opinion, and this is what I done was first, I think most people need to leverage the most important retirement, the most important investment vehicle that most people have, and that's their retirement plan, 4K, 401k, 43B, 457 plan. I think before anybody get into anything else, they need to fully maximize that because
Mm.
that's 100. If they match dollar for dollar, that's 100% rate of return on your money. And if they match 50 cent on the dollar, that's a 50% rate of return on your money. So I think a person should fully leverage that first and then get into other type of assets
Perfect,
because
perfect.
that doesn't make sense if you're over here doing this, but you're missing 50 to 100% over here in your retirement plan. It just doesn't make any sense.
I like what you said, the foundation, because that's definitely the whole topic today, and we're
Mhm.
gonna go deeper on that. But because I have some viewers in Canada as well, just to clarify, in Canada, so we have RSSP, TFSA. At the end of the day, It's with the same logic. You can your companies can match your donation in your account to a certain amount per year. So yes, definitely maximize that. And if you want to go play it safer. You want to kind of like maintain that and also leverage the market, the real estate market as well. You could start that with your RSSP. And there is also a program in Canada called the First Home Buyers Plan that allows you to take that amount that you save that was matched with the company that you were with. It allows you to invest in real estate without being taxed, without paying tax right away, but you have to put the money back within 15 years. So definitely maximize that in to the best of your potential, and then move to other platforms. So that's basically what he's saying. And I like what you're saying. Discipline, discipline. This is a common theme when I speak to millionaires, and then when I learn from them. This is a common theme I see over and over. The one of the key things they've learned and they apply, because learning is one thing, applying it is different. That's really what gives you the results, right? Applying knowledge is true power. And when you apply it, it can really transform someone, and you've seen it right in front of you in the panel, how someone went from a background where their parents didn't necessarily go and had an education, but they changed their life around. And how now basically at this point you can be a millionaire mentor because you've made it already. Now, I
Uh,
had a question.
still have work to do.
Exactly. So let's I wanted to let's get to the topic. And now so you were talking about assets, we're talking about liabilities. So for people who doesn't know, like, how would you define an asset?
Okay, so I would define an asset as anything that you own or purchase that as time goes on, the value goes up.
Mm.
So for example, I can give a couple examples, but I'm gonna first start with the most important asset that we all have that's free, but we in charge of growing that asset is our mind. Our individual mind is the most important asset. It's more important than real estate. It's more important than investments because the more you funnel information and grow your mind, the more then it's easier to track other assets. But also too, the reason why that's important is because the more sound mind you have, the easier and better you can make quick financial decisions that's in your benefit. Because when you massage your mind, the key thing is you got to think about how my decision today is going to affect me 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yes, very wise answer. I agree. So anything that basically gain value over time. And you
Mhm.
also mentioned Robert Kiyosaki, and as you said that you reread it. Me too. I read this book. If you're watching this and you haven't read this book yet, we're talking about the fundamental, the building blocks. I would definitely add this book as well as part of the. It really has a very good way of explaining it to you, of showing you different examples. It use real estate mainly, but that concept, that philosophy can apply in anything when it comes to finance and building your wealth. And that's what I do. And I would definitely recommend you guys do it. If you don't like to read like me, you don't like the words, I know the Intentional Millionaire, you mentioned that you like to read. But for me, I guess I'm a little bit ADD, so when I can't focus on reading. But what I do is I do audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
Audiobooks works very good for me, and audiobooks goes fast. Like within an hour or two, you can finish a book. You go to the gym, you put your
Yep.
audiobooks on as you muscling, as you gaining some gains in your muscle, you're also increasing the knowledge in your mind. So definitely I agree with you. Your mind is one of your biggest assets, and it's free.
Yep.
All it needs nurturing. You feed it. Well, it's again in engineering we have something called garbage in, garbage
Garbage
out.
out.
You know,
Yeah.
so if you feed it garbage, you're gonna have garbage results. But if you feed it good information, then it's going to help you process and give you better decision. And you need that to master your wealth. And then to quote Robert Kiyosaki, also to add to your point, Tim, it's anything that pays you, anything
Right.
that puts money in your pocket is an asset. If we want to keep it simple here, so that's definitely two great simple definition you have. Anything that you have over time gains value, and anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. So let's move to liabilities. So how would you define a liability?
A liability is the opposite of an asset. It's anything that takes money out of your pocket, and as time goes on, the value either goes down or over time the value costs you money. The total cost is higher.
Perfect, perfect. Very simple definition, and I know it may sound obvious, but these simple concept are can make a difference, an entire difference
Mhm.
in how you manage your expenses, how you manage your budget, how it affects your net worth. So, again, very simple definition, but they makes a difference. As I said, they are the building blocks of building wealth. We're talking about banks, even banks. First thing they look at assets, liabilities. It's kind of the alphabet of finances. All right.
Yep.
So now, how would you define a network?
You say net worth?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, net worth will be basically you take all the assets that you have, you total them up, minus all the liabilities. Everything that decrease over time or takes money, the total cost over time goes up. You subtract that from the assets, and that'll give you your net worth. And the reason why net worth is important is because net worth can outlast you when you're no longer here. Because most people think it's about working income, but it's actually net worth that's important, because as you get older, that goes up. Because I'm on track right now through net worth that I know that in 6 years it doubles.
Hmm. That, that's good. So basically, what you're saying here is when you add all the assets you have, meaning everything that you own that puts money in your pocket
Mhm.
or gain value over time, and then you subtract that by anything you own that takes money away from your pocket, let's say your monthly payment of your car or something like that. So that puts you on track to double your money and then the network that you already have right now.
That's correct for me, yes. And I think
Now,
everybody has to sit down and calculate their own net worth. So, and then what I like to say is I like to give a few examples of both assets and net liabilities. So that way you can have something that you can kind of really take away. So an asset can be anything as far as actual cash that you have in your account. An asset is also like collectibles. Let's just say you have an antique vehicle, antique car, or you have some type of antique collectible jewelry. They could be assets. And also your investments is assets. Because if you have your investments set up properly over time, their value can go up.
hmm,
But then you look at liabilities, liabilities can be anything as it relates to all credit cards are liability, because the reason why is because the more you keep a balance, the more interest that the financial institution charge you. Okay. Also, personal loans, because as time goes on, you continue to paying money out of your pocket. Okay. Also, car payments. Car payments is a twofold liability. The
Hmm.
reason being is because as time goes on, the value goes down, but also you're still paying money out on something that's going down in value. And then student loans also is a liability, but I like to say student loans is can be a one-off, just depends on the individual situation, because you can get a little bit of leniency with student loans, but either way, I just recommend that you just pay it off. And then a key liability that most people don't consider is their hobbies. Your hobbies can be a liability if it's taken away from the family's overall net worth. So I always recommend, if you're going to have a hobby and you really enjoy it, you should find a way to make some level of income off of it. That way you're getting a two for one versus one for one. So you're still enjoying your hobbies, but you're having fun doing it and you're making some level of money off of it.
That's great gems right there. And like I wanted people to join in this podcast. And again, guys, if you have any questions or comments, actually, comments really helps engage with the streams. So it really helps with the algorithm. So please write comments or questions, anything you want. But I like the way you think because, again, although this is concepts that I've heard over the last 5 years many times, whenever you speak with someone, you can always get a different perspective about the same thing. And what I learned from the intentional millionaire here is how he perceives expenses and liabilities. So what I got from what he said was the twofold, like using the car as an example, and that is a twofold liability. Now that's something I always say: hey, your car is a liability. It's money that you pay out of your pocket. But my reflex is not even thinking about the valuation of the car. It's later, if you're thinking about selling the car, that's when it comes up. But even before you even make that investment, that's something he already has. And the fact that he's saying that it's twofold already is already evaluating that, and that's going to influence his decision on how he perceives on acquiring that liability. And this again, guys, there is so much you can learn, there is so much you can get just from listening to other people and learning from their experiences. And again, even if you think you never really know. And I thank you for sharing that, the intentional millionaire. That was gems right there. I had a question for you, and I was curious. So, you're a millionaire. I had actually two questions. So, you have a $1 million portfolio, but
Mhm.
do you also have $1 million net worth?
Yes. My net
Great,
worth is $1 million. It's actually
awesome,
$1,007,623 and 60 some cent.
awesome. And in your projection is you want to double that in 6 years.
Yes, it would double in 6 years if I keep track on the way everything is going. Absolutely. Because
Awesome.
and I'm gonna tell you why at the end, because that'll be the bonus thing before we go.
Perfect, perfect. Well, hey, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, as a millionaire, what are your so we talk about your assets, but what are your liabilities looks like? Like, we know the average people, what the like most of us are average, so we know what the liabilities can be, cars. But what does the liabilities looks like for someone who's disciplined, who has a certain level of financial wealth? Like, just share a bit about what do you own as liabilities.
My liabilities is my hobbies, just to be totally honest with you.
Wow.
You can, I mean, I don't have no credit cards. I don't have no personal loans. I don't have no car payments. And I have three vehicles. I don't do car payments. Because going back to why I don't have car payments, because going back to when I paid the car off that I currently own that has 420,000 miles, I still drive that car today. But when I paid that off, I continued to pay myself like I had a car payment. And then because of that, I built the account up so great that I was able to purchase the next vehicle cash.
Mm,
And also with that, I was able to maintain the current vehicle. And then from there, I continued doing it, and I was able to purchase a third vehicle cash.
Pay yourself, people. So many things you can do. Once you have the cash, you can either invest it, you can either use that to reduce your debt, and the lower your debt, the higher your net worth. So,
Right, but let me explain, because you might be asking, well, why do you need three vehicles? Well, each vehicle has a purpose, because as a business person, you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And remember one thing that I stated: when I make a decision, I'm already thinking about 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now. Well, I
mm,
made another vehicle purchase because of, I needed a truck, so I purchased the truck for the simple reason of the business and taking care and maintaining my assets.
mm,
But the benefit I was able to do, because now I have a whole separate vehicle, it helps me with what? Taxes.
mm.
So you have to be, that's why I picked the name Intentional Millionaire, because everything that I do, I make sure is intentional, and it's going to give me a reward either now, but also later.
I definitely like the way you think. That's my biggest takeaway so far is definitely this. Right from inception. Right from inception, it's kind of like a philosophy you have, and it show itself in all your decisions. And that's great to hear. That's great. It's just more example of exactly what you're saying.
But I want to say this, because I don't want to give the impression that I did everything perfect. It was a lot of bumps in the road, a lot of learning. But one of the key things that really helped me stay grounded was the fact that I did not watch any TV. I did not do a lot of time doing fun stuff. I spent a lot of time reading, understanding, going to conferences, talking to people, doing the uncomfortable stuff, asking the questions that sound like a silly question, but I didn't care, because as long as I asked, it was a great question. Um, I did a lot of this stuff that most people just won't do, only because I was serious about growing. I was just serious about it. But the benefit is, I say for everyone, you can do the same thing. I didn't do anything unique. I just really hone in on being disciplined. But when you do that, you'll find that discipline spills over in all the other areas of your life. And from that, I was able to just start mentorship, because I was able to mentor both men and women on how they could do some of the things. So today, I done mentored 5 people personally. Two of them is on track. One of them is totally debt free, has over $350,000 saved and invested, and she's actually on track to, within the next 2 years, she'll have $1 million portfolio.
Awesome. Great to hear.
I have another young gentleman. He was $30,000 in debt. I showed him a program, and in 1 year, he was able to get fully out of debt, save his first $7,000 in cash, and he's on track to, by the end of next year, he's on track to have about $30,000 in cash, and he's on track to get his first rental property.
Awesome. Great to hear. Just last podcast, we were talking about coaches and mentors. Go check it out if you haven't done so already. Him, a perfect example of a mentor. First, why? Because I define a mentor as someone who's already achieved what you're trying to achieve. So if your goal is to have $1 million portfolio, definitely that's something to check it out. Also, while we're at it, I want to I want to show you guys. He just started a YouTube channel, so if you want to go and subscribe to his channel as well, because he drops some great knowledge there. And let me share my screen very easy. Just give me a second. So, the Intentional Millionaire, you can go and subscribe. So I'll go subscribe with this account, but I am subscribed already with the other account. Don't worry. And yes, so go subscribe as well. Leave a comment, say hi, and learn from him as well, because that I'm happy so far with what he's sharing with us, and I'm happy to hear different perspectives. And thank you again for this. So we talk about assets, we talk about liabilities, we talk about net worth. Now, my question to you is, would you share with people why is it important to focus on network? So you alluded it earlier and said that most people focus on earn income, and what they should be thinking about is also net worth. So, in your opinion, why is it important for people? Why should they care about the network and then apply their discipline towards this goal?
Okay, so they should person should apply for focus on the net worth, because the net worth gonna take care of you when your health don't allow you to take care of yourself. That's the first thing, because as we get older, our health changes, and the bigger and larger you grow your net worth, the easier life can be when you're older and your body does not allow you to work. That's the first thing and one of the most important things. Also, the reason why you want to build your net worth for legacy, because when you die, your net worth can continue on and go to the next generation. Because you have to remember, as time goes on, the value goes up. So you also leaving legacy through your net worth. You cannot leave legacy with working income, because once you stop working, the paycheck stops. But with net worth, once you stop doing what you do, you can actually lay in the bed and it can still continue to grow. So that's the reason. That's two reasons. Then the third reason why net worth is so important, because if you decide to have a family, have kids, that's the easiest way you can provide something for the kids that's going to allow them the unfair advantage at life. Because why have kids and have them struggle the way you struggle when you can go out and build net worth, and then you can have a great life, and then you can pass it down, they can have a great life. So those are the three reasons why I think net worth is very important. But also net worth can go generations to generations to generations to generations. Because when you really think about the world's wealthiest people in the world, they never talk about their income. They talk about what? Their net worth.
Mm. Powerful, powerful. And I want to give a shout out to Jay Bones. Jay Bones, thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Very appreciate it. And he said he just subscribed to the Intentional Millionaire channel. Thank you again for this.
Appreciate it,
And
Jay.
thank you. And again, if you have any questions, this is your chance. You have a millionaire right here on the panel. I'll be looking for questions. So if you have any questions or things you would like to know, make sure you type that on the comment section, and we'll go from there. Um, Right. We're okay. So what I'll do is after the stream, I'll leave a link to his channel. But basically, if you type his name, The Intentional Millionaire on YouTube, just like the title right here, The Intentional Millionaire, you'll be able to find them. No worries.
And can I just do three bonus things on why you want to hire net worth too?
Yep. Go
So I
ahead.
gave you more of the long term effects of having a higher net worth,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna give you three right now effects that you can have for having a net worth, having a higher net worth.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is with a higher net worth, you can purchase more assets. I like to say the higher your net worth, the more you're able to do the piggyback effect of buying more assets. So you can use one asset to pick it back to get another asset. That's one. You can do that right now once you start building your net worth.
And all
The
you need is
second
one.
one is you can live with a better peace of mind,
Mm.
because you know when you go to sleep, see, because the difference is some of you all may be asking, well, if I have $1 million portfolio, why is I'm still working? Because now that I have $1 million portfolio, I can work and I work in peace, because I don't really need to be there. I choose to be there. It's a total different ball game.
Mm.
Okay. And because of that, because it got back to some of my coworkers, what's going on with me. But
Wait,
because
did
of
you see
that,
that on YouTube?
no, just because of some other people that I work with that, knowing, the world's not as large as we really think it is. So, but because of that though, when they found out, they don't get try to get me to do certain things because they know that he really don't have to be here. It's a whole different ball game in the meetings.
Mhm. Like, how do we tell this guy did something wrong today? Oh,
That's another one. And then but it allows you to have a peace of mind. You can live with peace. You could be at ease. You could be able to make more comfortable decisions. You could be able to step in when you see things, somebody that may be lacking financially, and you can provide some level of comfort, some level of peace for someone else. And then the last thing is you can be genuine to give on top of you can pay others to do the things that you really don't want to do. So
good.
there was some right now benefits that you can do too for having a high net worth.
I definitely agree, and there's a couple things I want to share. But before, I want to give a shout out to again J Bones, Virginia brother checking in. Awesome. Working debt free, of course. And basically, most people have to work because they're in debt. Example, a mortgage, student loans. Thank you, Aaron B. That's true. That's true. There is a lot of people that are working. Most people, it's when we're talking about net worth, all right. And do you know that most people do not have a positive net worth? When we say when they don't have a positive network, it means they have more liabilities than they have assets. So when you go and you add up all your assets, it's a small number. And then when you add up all your debts, student loans, and then it becomes a liability, and that number is negative. So there's most people are in this region, so being in a position where you have a positive network and it's in a million, that is definitely the peace of mind that you need. And if you're still working, just like you said, you pass the time, you have to do something to give value to the world in any way possible. So definitely, and I want to share something. You don't necessarily even have to be in $1 million portfolio to reap some of these rewards. I'll give you an example. Last month, I had COVID. I had to be in a hospital for a week. While I was having COVID, and I was sick for 3 weeks. I didn't work for 2 weeks, basically. So of course, my paycheck took a beating for that, but I was able to sort it out with my boss, so that's not an issue. But what I did notice is after I got back from the hospital, I looked at my investment and man, they were doing great. My body was doing bad. I was already because at some point it was really bad. It was really bad. The COVID that I had. The first 3 days at the hospital. To be honest with you, at the third day, I was starting thinking about what can like the last message I'll have for my son, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I was that close, but when I got back, everything was okay, and I'm looking at my portfolio, and it was doing great, and that gave me an entire new perspective. Like your portfolio is working 24/7, especially when we're talking about cryptocurrencies. We're talking about staking. I'm just took a course to go deep on yield farming. These are techniques that you can get your investment to work for yourself, so you could get paid now and also wait for the value of the crypto to appreciate over time so that you can make money in the future as well on the value
Hmm.
side and on the cash flow side. So many different things you can do, but it was very interesting. It was very interesting. So my goal is basically 4,000 a month US from cash flow investments. I'm right now. I would say I'm about 500. I'm consistently averaging about $500 in cash flow, and so it's not much. It's not anywhere close to my goal, and I'm definitely my plan is to go accelerate that. But it's something. It's beautiful to see. You can't work. Your body can't. You can barely breathe, and you go back to your portfolio, and the money's still up. That was something I learned. It definitely motivated me to go harder and get that goal faster. So I wanted to
Look, you didn't
share.
feel this sick when you saw that, right? The sickness started going. Listen, when you saw that, the sickness started to go away. You was like, man, I feel a lot better now.
Oh man, it was a beautiful feeling. That's the first time I experienced it that in my life. And I wanted to say, I guess my debts are high right now, and they're going lower. But this year is the first year. Last year was the first year I went positive in my life,
Mhm.
and then like positive net worth. And this year I crossed. Not only I crossed the five-figure net worth, but I'm very close to the six-figure net worth.
Mhm.
It's doing great. Crypto guys.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
That's
Crypto
where it
guys.
starts.
Sorry.
I say that's where it starts.
Exactly. And again, it's just like you were saying again, you piggyback from one investment. I take the major profit from one investment, I put it into another one. And that's why I really preach in the beginning phases, discipline is important, but not only that, you need to have focus. You focus, and the intentional millionaire mentioned it as well. It doesn't make sense for you to go spreading your seeds all over the place, and you have you lack of attention in all of them. He didn't listen to TV. He focused on one thing at the time. Put the discipline in. Leverage the income and benefit from one asset to piggyback from the other one. And now you have two assets. You can piggyback from two assets to multiply it to four, and it
Yep.
becomes an exponential factor that increases your wealth very fast. So, knowledge, guys, gems, learn from people who have done it already, and we can go from there. So, any other points you wanted to chime in before I move on?
No, that was it.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so I wanted to share with you guys couple of stats that I came across. And before I'm on again, guys. Do you have any comments? What are your thoughts so far on the podcast? Questions? Very excited. I see there we had a couple of people here, but let me share with you guys couple of information. Let me add it here. Let's go. Still new with this platform. Perfect. All right, so I'll zoom a bit so that you guys can see. I was looking at some data earlier today, and just to have a better understanding of the wealth distribution and basically where people stand. And I came up with this chart here that says, hey, wealth distribution in the United States in 2016. All right. And you can see that there is a larger, so here, share of total wealth. So on the y axis, we're looking at the share of total wealth, and on the x-axis, it's kind of like the population, basically share of the population ranked by household income. So we're looking at the household income for 2016, and you can see like on the higher household income, it's really the top 5%, the top 1%, and the top 10. All three together, they are sharing a lot of the total wealth, and the rest of the population, some of them have nothing. Some of them have nothing, and this is the lowest 30% of the population. US is basically um, what 300, 250,000 people in the US. So 30% of that, that's a lot of people. We're talking about nearly 100,000 people who basically owns nothing. And we are in the black community. There is a lot in the black community in that range right here. So financial education is key. Financial discipline is key. Understanding the building blocks of what is an asset, what is a liability. That is how you go from here and you go in the higher ranks. And we have an example on the panel right here today. So I wanted to share that with you guys. A couple other things I wanted to share, and that was interesting. That was interesting. Now, what we're looking at here is the distribution of net wealth in the United States from Q1 of 1990 to Q1 of 2021. So we got fresh data. And if we're looking at the bottom 50%, their total wealth didn't really, it's kind of like a flat line. Didn't really go up or go down. Over the years, it just stayed flat. And when we're talking about percentage of total wealth, they're not talking about much wealth that they're managing, right? And if we're looking at the 50 to 90%, so we're looking at that gray line right here, we can see, and that is mostly the middle class of America. So what we're looking at here, this is mostly the middle class of America. And the pattern I want you to see here is when we're looking at the 90s, all right, it was just below 40% that they were managing of total wealth. Let's just say 35%. But now, over time, it's slowly decreasing. It's slowly decreasing. And when we're looking at the 2021, it's 28%. So there is something that is happening where the middle class of America is slowly losing the amount of wealth that they're managing. And what does that mean? That means the middle class is getting poorer and poorer over time. All right. Now more than ever, we need financial education because we have inflation that is going to impact the society as a whole. And the rich will get richer because they have assets that gain value over time. Even if you have collectible, that will gain value. But the poor, if you own liabilities, then you're just going to have to pay more currencies, more cash to pay for those liabilities. And that is what is happening right now for the middle class of America from the 50 to 90% that shows you this trend. So I noticed that this morning and I was like, wow, this is something interesting. Now you got the 90 to 99 percentile, so almost like the 9%, the top 9% of United States from the 1990 to 2021. So again, it's basically almost a flat line on the upside. They're managing close 40%. They're kind of like fluctuating between 35 to 40% of the total wealth that they're managing. And when we're looking at the top 1% alone. So here, this is 9% managing 40%. And this is the top 1% of North America who's already managing on their own at the lowest about 24% and at their highest 32%. And what the trend that you're seeing here, as the middle class get poorer over time, the top 1% are going richer all over time and they're acquiring more assets, they're acquiring more wealth, their networks are increasing. So this is an interesting observation to say the least. And the intentional millionaire, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I can understand why that is. Um, One is like you stated because inflation is going up. Two, I think is because a lot of people not working. And some of it is by choice and some of it is just due to the environment that we're in with CV-19. Um, and but I think it's one of those things where what people are doing to kind of live is they're take going into their 401k, 403b, 457 plans. They're going into their retirement plans, um, and they're using the money to kind of live.
Mm.
So because of that, their value is going down because now they have so many liabilities, they're using the assets to real time take care of the liabilities.
And that was the asset that was supposed to be there to cover the retirement. So
That's
now
correct.
they're basically in a position where they have to work more, longer past the retiring age.
Mhm. So and it brings up a very uh it brings up the other side of that. That's why it's so critical that, you know, we have to start now building our assets and getting out of debt because nobody was able to predict COVID. Well, I didn't want to use that word.
It's
Nobody
it's
was
okay.
able
It's
to
okay.
prevent CV-19. However, if we put, that's why you have to think about how can my decision now affect 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now? Because for me, 2020 was one of my biggest spike years.
Biggest
So,
spike years, you said?
uh huh, uh huh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe you.
So that's why I believe that's why you have to be in position, and that's why we can't take net worth lightly
Mm.
because it allows you to be in position and you can weather the storm within when any type of storm come. And this was an unpredicted one, but because I was in position, it actually catapulted me.
Mm,
And it did the same for others that was in position. So I think it's, that chart really brains and hone in on why this is so important, because you don't want to be in a statistic that's going down. You want to be in a statistic that's going up.
mm. And actually, that's a good point right here. And I wanted to add to that because, again, it's not like you need to be in $1 million already to reap those
Hmm.
rewards. What I did in 2018, I came up with the wealth engineering philosophy. This is something I go and I teach on the course, but you guys can talk. I'm not here to promote the course, but I'm just saying I came up with this strategy in 2018. I applied it on my life, and I was encouraging my brother to do it as well. Now, in 2020, I actually lost my job. So, what I lost my job, and one of the things, one of the biggest lesson, and I'll make a video at the end of the year about that. But one of the biggest lesson I've learned is about emotion and understanding emotion and control, using that to manage your finance, because you can't be having any type of emotion whatsoever. And this me, I know that, and despite knowing that, I still make mistakes because there are some emotions that are so strong that are attached to previous traumas that makes you do something that as you do it, you know it's wrong, but you justify it still because of the situation you're on. And I went through something like this that really, I guess, my net worth my assets and took a beating. My investment took a beating. I was taking my investment that I prepared for a scenario that I explained in the course. I had everything prepared, and then I took money out of it, knowing that it was going to affect me in the future, knowing that it was going to affect me now. But in my mindset, I had to, because I had a baby coming. I lost
Hmm.
my job. I wanted to make sure that I had an income when the baby shows up, because one of my
Hmm.
biggest fear is when the baby starts crying and I have no paycheck coming in. So that fear alone made me divert into something that I was very disciplined. Very, I was for 2 years. I was very disciplined. Now my brother didn't make that mistake, and who, who is I think he's close to be reaching the intentional millionaire goals at some point. But he's not far from this goal. But for me, I took I guess that mistake that I made slow me down. But despite that, it slowed me down. As I said, my net worth still increased 7x. I made over 715% gains from that period alone, from that period of the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, exactly the time frame I was expecting it to happen. That happened. That's exactly what happened, because I was in position, even though I didn't had the full income that I wanted to have, the full asset that I wanted to have, even, but I still had some. I didn't remove everything. And even that basically made all the money that I lost plus some. All right.
Hmm.
So again, guys, I think what's more important is to start. What is very important is you start. If you are in the fence, you don't know what to do, start somewhere and learn from your mistakes. But this is where you go and ask a mentor. You have a mentor online here, is on the panel. You can ask questions. You can go on his channel and type a comment, and maybe he'll reply to you. But you can maybe you can reach out with him on Instagram. You can do something. You can find someone. I know in the Black community, and I made a last video about that. I don't know if you know the Intentional Millionaire. There is a channel called Valuetainment. It's one of the biggest YouTube channel in the business realm.
Yeah, I saw you, Patrick, Dave Beck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick, Bet David, and they made a video about the rapper losing T-Pain losing $40 million, and I was
Hmm.
using that as an example to show people that there is people that don't understand what we went through as a race when they don't understand the privilege they have for they even have someone in their life that tells them, hey, you need to have discipline when it comes to finance. If we had learned this early on, when we
Mm-hmm.
would apply it now in our life, by the time we reach 30, we would have been at least in a financially independent in a way that our assets are surpassing our liabilities and we're coming that way. But we didn't had any of that. I started my financial journey at the age of 30 years old. So that is late. And even for me, I have to consider myself lucky because so many people are in their 40s and 50s and they're still
Yeah.
having that poor mindset. So again, guys, it's all about learning from someone. And as long as you dare, you do the move, you buy assets, you focus on something that's going to get value over time. It could even be a collectible. And I was just curious, the intentional millionaire, what kind of collectibles are you into?
I have some antique furniture, and I also found my old collectible basketball and baseball cards. And I have a Michael Jordan MVP 1994 card that's authentic.
Nice.
Yeah.
So again,
um,
right there, and I can tell you, like sports cards are great collectible.
mhm,
When the stock market was going down, when everything is like when people were calling it almost deflation, we had like Lamborghinis was going up, collectibles was going up,
mhm.
watches was going up, everything that is rare was going up. So it could even be something you like that brings joy in your heart. Imagine having this rare collectible from your favorite player. You put it on a wall. Every time you come to your room, you seize it. It brings you joy, and you know you are one of the only ones in the world. Very few in the world has this card, and you know
Mhm.
people would pay close to $1 million to even have a card like that. So. I don't know. I don't know if you are in basketball, but Luka Doncic, one I think he's a rookie sports cards. They were looking into selling it into millions, and he's not even
I
like
saw that.
he's not even a Hall of Famer yet. But so sports cards, it could even be something like this. It doesn't even have to be a real estate or a crypto or stocks. It could be anything that gets value over time. That is an asset, and that is worth something, right? So, guys, think about it. Get online, and now you mentioned. Now, I know I asked you this question. Why should people care about a net worth? But let me. I know you don't do that, right? You don't do that. You don't go.
No, I don't do that.
But
Um,
do you have any people asking you, like the banks asking you, hey, they're willing to give you a lot more money if you're willing to invest it?
yeah, that I you always get those type of solicitations, but I don't subscribe to those because the thing you have to know when you sign up for debt, most of the time once you sign up, you're working backwards
Mm,
because the average credit card interest rate is 15%. Most people don't know how to structure an investment that's going to pay them 15%. So because of that, they're actually operating backwards. So before we even talk about inflation, you getting killed with your credit card.
mm. So let me ask you this.
Hmm.
So even like it's an interesting concept because people say, hey, if you pay your cards within the first 30 days, well, technically there's no debt that was applied. So for you, just the concept alone, you just want to stay away from it. You don't even want to have to worry about, oh, make sure you paid it on time before the debt
Well,
applies.
well, I'm not against that. So
Mm,
let them. I want to make sure we have that understanding. I'm not against a person that's disciplined. I just kind of speak against that because most people not. And then what ends up happening, the ones that's not listen to the person that's disciplined, and then they try to do like the disciplined person, but they not disciplined, and then they get in trouble. So I just try to kind of keep the basis across the board the same. But for somebody disciplined, yeah, absolutely makes sense because I understand some people get perks and things cash back and things like that, which I understand. But for most people, the majority of people, So if you're looking at 100%, 80% of people shouldn't be doing that. But the
Mm,
20% are the exception to the rule.
mm.
Yeah.
I That's a great point right there, and that goes back to people looking for online videos, for example,
Hmm.
listening to. I know when I started, well, someone I listened to, Kevin O'Leary. Kevin
Yes.
O'Leary,
Yes. Uh-huh.
I listen to him a lot. He's also saying the same thing: no debt, and also investing in something that pays you dividend. That's one of the things. That's one of
Hmm.
the first person that puts that seed in my mind, and then I later developed that into a whole new strategy for myself. But he was mentioning that a lot. But there's a lot of people, for example, even Robert Kiyosaki, he mentioned about how he used debt to increase his now net worth, buying more assets with the debt. He's talking about the concepts of good debts and bad debts. Me personally, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with any. I just focus with buying assets that pays me now. But I was just curious about kind of like your mindset around it, and yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I like to give a caveat though. So if I was sitting down with a person one on one,
Hmm.
I would see where they at to make the recommendation,
Hmm.
because the person that's a little bit more disciplined, they'll be the ones that kind of mention that. So automatically, I know if they're a disciplined person or they're really just kind of getting into using credit cards. But my recommendation always going to be for a person that's disciplined or not disciplined. If
Yeah,
you're going to use credit cards, then whatever balance you're going to charge, you need to have that as extra cash already in your account.
mm.
And
I agree.
and not saying, well, when I get my next paycheck. No, that means you don't have the money now, so you shouldn't charge it now. So I like to
Absolutely.
kind of put that twist on it, because you have two different sides, and what ends up happening, the wrong people hear the wrong side, and then they go down the wrong road. Because you still got to think about, just going back to your example, wealth engineering. You mentioned that, for you started your path, and then you had life happen, and then you had to go down a little bit. But remember, the most important asset was your mind. That's why you was able to bounce right back and go up 700 and some percent. See, and that's why the mind is so important, because even though the actual asset value decreased, that didn't mean it was going to stay there, because you already had the mindset, and you still had things in operation or coming that was going to put you right back and then some.
Absolutely, and I agree with you.
Hmm.
And if you're speaking with the general public, it's better to think of it as yes. Don't stay away from credit cards because most people haven't developed the discipline, and discipline, it may sound uh, the word may sound easy. Most people know what discipline is, but it's a whole different game once you start doing it. When you start doing it and stay consistent with it, when you stay consistent with it, especially when your life changes and you still have to stay consistent with it. It's a mental game. It's a simple concept, but it's hard to do. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned that, hey, sometimes don't do it alone. Sometimes join a community. They can help support you when everyone is doing it at the same time. That motivate you. And that lead me to my next question, the intentional millionaire. They say that your network is your net worth. Do you agree or disagree with this statement?
Absolutely. Because you're a direct result to your five closest friends.
Mm.
So your network is your net worth. Because, and here's the reason why that's important, because your network is going to lead you to other people to allow you to piggyback your assets. Because remember, the most important asset is what?
Your
The
mind.
mind. So if you around somebody else that know that their mind is an asset, they're going to do what? Introduce you to more people, mind that's an asset. And when the mind is an asset, you can then buy more physical assets.
Yes, absolutely. Like for
So
example,
yes, your network is your net worth. And
And
I
it
have, and that's what really helped me is because I have a mentor in all areas. I have a spiritual mentor, but because I'm spiritual mentor, I have a health mentor just for working out things like that. I have a mental health mentor, just somebody that I know that works in the mind space that kind of can talk to, get a good understanding. And then I have a financial mentor because they all need it because you not it's hard. You stated it earlier. You have to have somebody else that you can provide counsel to because we all human and things happen, things change, new situations or new obstacles come up. So sometimes you may not have the answer, so you got to go seek the answer. But when you have a network of people around you, the network just expands to somebody else that do have the answer. And that's how I met and that's how I met a lot of people, but that's how I ran across some of my best deals. Was because somebody introduced me to somebody introduced me to, somebody else, and they said, "Hey, I remember that guy. Well, let me call him up." And then they called me up, and that's how I met my mentor in real estate. It was somebody led me to somebody, somebody led me to somebody, and then I met that person, and me and my mentor, we kind of meshed really well, and that was the game changer for me.
Powerful, powerful. Guys, lots of knowledge. Even the millionaire mentor has a mentor. And the key takeaway, and I already structure my life to be exactly what you mentioned, and I do it in stages. I to be let's be honest, do it in stages, prioritizing what I want to focus on the most, and go from
Mhm.
there. But what I want you to hear from him, guys, he has a mentor for everything, even a spiritual mentor, a mindset mentor, a financial mentor. He has a network that he can rely on. That's where his network found his deal. To be honest with you, that's how I found him. I found him through a network. And I'm not even officially part of the network yet, but I'm considering about joining the network. In case you're wondering, team, it's the lead attorney, yeah, a
Mhm.
YouTuber that I follow very much. He started a new YouTube channel talking about how to start on YouTube. He was using his videos as examples of what to do on YouTube. His videos are well done, very high quality, lots of B-rolls. And yes, he was using your, and I saw that, and I saw the name, the Intentional Millionaire, and I'm like, the Intentional Millionaire. This was a very clever name. And for someone to come up with that name, that's someone I want to talk to. I approached him. Next thing you know, we have here on the podcast, and he's sharing great knowledge, even though we're discussing about things that I know already, but I can hear it on a different perspective. And that unlocks something different in my mind that helped me see liabilities in a different way. And that is the power of a network, guys. Network, you can always learn from someone else. That's going to help you and reach, as he mentioned, the biggest one of your biggest assets, which is your mind. And then that's going to help you acquire more physical assets and increase your network. Powerful, powerful.
And I think when you're building a network, you have to bring value to the network.
Mm.
One of the things that I was always good at is, just genuinely giving. I always say, you just got to give the best and be yourself. But from that, you'll get everything is gonna come back two, threefold. And that's how I was able to build my mentorship. I like to say you got to build your mastermind group. And that's how I was able to build my mastermind my group because I was able to bring them value, even though they was at a higher status or they was more at a higher level than I was. I never looked at it as a bad thing. I looked at it as, so what can I do for them to, so where they will want to share and pour into me. So you have to genuinely go to them and, introduce yourself, but you got to be seeking the heat and listening, because how I was able to build a relationship was they was looking at doing some community stuff, and I told them I at least come over and help them get set up. But in the process of me helping them get set up, it was just like it was just like family, really. And then from there, they were just like, well, what'd you do? And you kind of small talking as we were setting up. And then from there, they were just like, well, hey, why don't you come on back to the office on Monday, and then we'll sit down and kind of talk and so forth. And then that was it. So I just think that you got to just genuinely give and genuinely provide value. And that value is just something as simple as just listening and then taking notes, because the most beautiful thing that mentors love is knowing that they're spending time with somebody that genuinely is interested. So make sure when you do that, you have pen and paper, or you ask them, is it okay if you kind of record the conversation? Because you want to make sure that you don't miss anything, and they appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, guys. We just talked about it last stream. Last stream, I made a stream about coaches and mentors. What did I say, guys? What did I say? If you remember, if you were there last streams, what did we talk about? Mentors, they love to see people that are ambitious. They love to see that you value their time. When they are in a certain level, they understand the power of time, right? Time is the biggest, the most valuable thing on this earth is time. If you value their time and you show that you're going to take their teaching and apply it and show that you're not wasting it, yes, they will sit down and listen to and teach you more than you ask for, because you don't know what you don't know. You may think you're asking a question, but if you knew better, you would have asked a different question. So he's seeing what you know and he's giving you also what you don't know, right? That's what a mentor does for you guys. And again, while we're talking about mastermind, it doesn't even have to be something complex. You can start with your friends, people that you know. I'll give you an example and a real one. The shirt I'm wearing right now. It wasn't planned. I didn't plan this, but I'm wearing a shirt, and there is a name here. I think it says, wait, Greg X. So this is my best friend name is Gregory, and he started a racing company. It's a non-profit company that he started, and yes, that's basically what he did. I'm promoting it. That's another friend right there that started a shirt company, Focus, and then I have other ones here. There you go, and in the back there is more friends each of them started a business, and we put it all that into a shirt. We're promoting actually my friend who's starting a racing company, because we have all the stickers of all of our friends' business into his car. So we're building our own mastermind, business mastermind, with people that I know. I went to school with, I went to university with. So these are the people, and I'm slowly getting them into investing it and saving for retirement, investing in cash flow value investments. But it starts from people around you. If you know that he's such a good friend, you know that you don't want to ignore his message because you're so focusing on building your wealth. Well, bring them along with you and start from getting your mastermind and go from there. So just to show you a real example, guys. Yes, I have a mastermind with many friends. I have masterminds with group with my brother, and I shout out to the ones listening that are part of that mastermind. I have another mastermind from my wealth engineering company. Shout out to the guys in the chat who are part of that. So, again, guys, build your network. Your network is your net worth, and also invest in assets, increase your net worth, and go from there. But remember, do not forget about the mind, because liabilities can increase and decrease, your assets can increase and decrease, but your mind always stays with you, and it's always what you put into it. Garbage in, garbage out. But if you have valuable in, you're going to have valuable out. And from that note, I wanted to leave it to you, Tim. If do you have any other points you wanted to mention, you wanted people to take away from this, the and about before I leave, I wanted to give a shout out to the Pharma Pro. We love money. Thank you, thank you. And this guy is one of the masterminds. You know what we're talking about. So we'll talk later. But again, thank you guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Hit the likes up. And again, Tim, is there anything you wanted to add? Key takeaway. I already learned a lot from you in this podcast. I love your mindset. I love your discipline. Anything you want to share with the public?
The last thing, and my closing remarks and call to action. I just say, for all of you out there that's listening and watching, just really sit back and take some time to start writing down, what do you actually want in the next 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. And now sit down and just identify, based on what you want and where you currently at, what do you need to change to start moving in that direction? And then that's what you focus on. So out of that, just pick two things that you want to change. And you spend the next year focusing just on those two things, and you're going to see how much of a big impact that's going to make for you. Because
Hmm.
too many times, especially with all the media and everything going on, it's a lot of moving parts. We get so inundated with so much information that sometimes we come information paralysis analysis. And that just means we get so much information that we don't know where to start. So I say just really sit down, identify two things that you want to change, and you just laser focus on those two things. And that's going to get you closer to what you want to go, where you want to go.
Apps.
That's I'm sorry.
Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
And that's what I say to do to get started. I think that's the easiest thing to do to get started. Just identifying one where you are by sitting down and writing exactly what do you want 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years from now, and then two, actually sitting down and identifying two things, the two important things that you're going to change that's going to allow you to get there. And you look at the first year, and then you just put it into action. And then what you do is you spend time finding and seeking to research audiobooks, asking questions as it relates to those two things. And when you do that, you're going to be closer to hitting your goal. But here's the beautiful thing. You're going to realize that you just made a shift in your mind. And when you make the shift in your mind, when the mind has shifted, it causes the actions to shift. And when the actions shift, it equals the end result. So that's kind of all I had. And I want you all for homework before we go, because we couldn't teach you about money without giving you some type of homework to do.
Absolutely.
And so the wealth engineering pro already covered this, but I want you all to research and look up what is the rule of 72 and re-identify exactly what that rule is, and then get back with wealth engineering. And I already know he's probably going to give you a little bit more guidance and insight on why that's important, because it's the golden rule to money. And that's all I have.
Perfect, perfect. All right. Hey, I just remember very quickly. I think there was something else you said that you had you were reserve it at the end. Was it from the why you had it 50-50, or I believe you mentioned that already on for fluctuation for if the market goes down, then you can still leverage from your market. I don't remember if you mentioned that already.
Um, I'm sorry. Can you
It's
repeat
okay.
that?
It's okay. We'll forget
Yeah.
about it because I remember we had a conversation. It said, "Hey, I'll leave that towards the end," but it's okay. No
Oh,
worries.
yes, yes. I was gonna say towards the end, the one thing I want you all to know is that wealth engineering is really providing you all the fundamentals that you need to really start moving the ball towards building your net worth. So I say, whenever you know you get on, make sure you take good notes and provide an interactive platform to them, because what that does is it allows you to now continue to fester your mind, because the mind is a muscle. And when you don't continue to put information into your mind, the mind actually atrophies and it goes backwards, it gets weaker. So because of that, I wanted to leave that to the end, because I want you all to know that it's enough to go around for everyone. All we have to do is just identify what we want and how we want to get our fair share, and then go out there and go after it. And here's the great thing: we all community, so we can all help each other and bring back to the table whatever questions and concerns that we may have, and we can figure them out all together.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's all I got. I appreciate everything. And do you have anything for me, Mr. Wealth Engineering?
Yes, yes. Just take a little bit long. I'm just going to conclude, but just take a little bit longer. All
Hmm.
that to say, guys, great knowledge, great gems. If you're just joining in the stream, check the beginning of the streams. There is a lot of gems there. J Bones, Rule of the Seven, too. We're gonna get into that. But yes, guys, your mind, and I wanna to add a quick note on what he mentioned, because the when it comes to your financial journey, all right, the longest time or the biggest mind shift um, your mind will do, it's the first one. It's when you take the first step. That's how it was for me. It was the hardest. It was the hardest. I was in a safe job, but some deep down, something, I felt something was wrong. I can see it. I can't pay for more cars. I feel something is wrong. And what I'm looking at as an options were risky. Taking my money that I could have spent on cars and go invest in a course so I can learn more and find a mentor.
Hmm.
That was risky to me. But after many days, many weeks of thinking about it, I decided to pull the trigger. It was the hardest choice I had to make at the time, one of the biggest. But when my mind shift to make that payment, right then and there, after I made that payment, I felt differently. I started thinking differently. Okay, now I'm in that journey. What do I do? My focus started to change. So many things started happening. I seems that I learned quicker somehow. And then I was listening. I told you, in a year from 2017, 2019, I consume at least 45 different videos on YouTube per day. At least 45 different contents on financial and investing in cryptos and everything per day. Whether they were an hour, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I would, because that's how I learn. But I go there deep. Audiobooks. That's and I notice every little mind shift that happens after that first ones was easier, was quicker. And now it gets to the point where you just listening to something live and then it already shift your mindset. It happened today in this podcast with Wally was mentioning twofold when it comes to liabilities. That's something I've never heard before. If it was 5 years ago, I would have learned it and it would have gone this year and it would have left that year and I wouldn't really understand it. But now, because I'm training my mind to operate this way, I listen to it. I know exactly where I'm going to apply it. I can see exactly where I'm going to apply it in my finances as he's saying it. So that's what it does. Your mind is a great asset. Don't underestimate it. And discipline. Thank you. Thank you very much, the Intentional Millionaire. Make sure you go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Make sure drop a like, drop a comment, show some support. I believe he drops videos every week. But again, you can reach out to him if you have more questions you want to ask. He is a millionaire mentor as well. And again, don't value his time. People value his time. Time is important. And again, thank you for again, the Intentional Millionaire. And for you guys, thank you for your support. We'll meet on the next one.